On the night of August 7, 2016, 16-year-old Lashaya Stine disappeared under disturbing circumstances. What happened that night has remained a chilling mystery, with few answers and many questions. Lashaya was a vibrant, intelligent teenager. She was loved by her family and friends, a girl full of potential with dreams for her future. But that all changed when she vanished without a trace. It was a regular Sunday evening in Aurora, Colorado when Lashaya was last seen. She was reportedly at her family's apartment complex, where she lived with her mother. Lashaya had plans to meet up with friends that night, something typical for a teenager. But as the hours went by, something wasn't right. Her mother, who had been trying to reach her, became concerned when Lashaya didn't return home. By the time night fell and Lashaya was still missing, her family knew something was horribly wrong. The police launched an investigation immediately, but clues were scarce. Lashaya's phone was turned off, and she hadn't contacted anyone after leaving. The trail went cold almost as quickly as it had begun. As weeks turned into months, the mystery deepened. Lashaya's disappearance was not an isolated incident. In fact, there were unconfirmed reports that she had been seen in a nearby area, but those leads also evaporated. Authorities began to look at various angles, including whether Lashaya could have left willingly or if she had been abducted. But there was one piece of information that seemed to raise more questions. She had left behind her wallet, her ID, and some personal belongings, which was unlike her. Despite an extensive search by local authorities, including K-9 units and a search of the nearby areas, Lashaya remained missing. Authorities also received tips about potential sightings in other states, but none of these led to anything substantial. It was as if she had just disappeared into thin air. Even after the search efforts dwindled, Lashaya's family has never stopped looking for answers. Her mother, who has spoken out publicly multiple times, continues to urge anyone with information to come forward. One crucial piece of evidence did surface. A security camera captures what looks to be Lashaya walking down the street. However, it didn't lead to any new clues. To this day, Lashaya's case remains unsolved, and she's listed as a missing person. What happened to her that night remains a heartbreaking puzzle, and her family, like many others, is left wondering, was this a case of abduction, or did something else happen that no one knows about? On the evening of November 6, 2017, Abby Lynn Patterson, a 20-year-old college student from Lumberton, North Carolina, went missing. To this day, her disappearance remains shrouded in mystery. Abby was a bright, well-liked young woman with dreams of a bright future ahead. She was studying at University of North Carolina at Pembroke, and like many students, she juggled schoolwork and family life. But one fateful night, Abby would go missing, leaving her family and the entire community searching for answers. That evening, Abby had been staying at her sister's apartment in Lumberton. She had made plans to go pick up some food and was last seen leaving the apartment around 9:30 p.m. But by midnight, she hadn't returned, and her family became worried. Her family immediately began looking for her, but Abby was nowhere to be found. Her phone went unanswered, and when they went to her sister's apartment, Abby wasn't there. It was like she had simply disappeared. Local authorities launched an investigation, but there were few clues to follow. Abby's car was found in the parking lot of the apartment complex, but there was no sign of her. Her personal belongings, her purse, wallet, and phone, were all left behind. Surveillance footage showed Abby leaving the apartment building around 9:30 p.m., but that's the last confirmed sighting of her. Witnesses reported seeing her walking near the complex, but no one saw her leave or interact with anyone. As days turned into weeks, Abby's family grew more desperate. They appealed to the public for help, sharing Abby's story through social media and news outlets, hoping someone would come forward with information. Authorities conducted extensive searches, including combing wooded areas and nearby locations, but no trace of Abby was found. Her case remained frustratingly cold. As law enforcement continued their investigation, rumors began to swirl, but no substantial leads ever came forward. In the months following her disappearance, Abby's family held vigils and continued to advocate for her, hoping the community would not forget her. Still, despite all the efforts, Abby's whereabouts remain a mystery. Was Abby taken, or did she leave on her own? What happened to her in those final hours before she vanished? These are questions that, sadly, remain unanswered. In December 1910, a young woman named Dorothy Harriet Camille Arnold disappeared from the streets of New York City without a trace. Over a century later, her case remains one of the most perplexing missing person mysteries in U.S. history. Dorothy Arnold was the daughter of a wealthy and respected family in New York City. She had a seemingly perfect life, educated, well-liked, and from a family of privilege. Yet, on December 12, 1910, Dorothy stepped out of her family's luxurious home and vanished from the face of the earth. That day, Dorothy had gone out to run errands, including shopping for a dress. She was last seen walking on Fifth Avenue near Central Park. Dorothy's family thought little of it at first. After all, she had done this many times before. But when Dorothy didn't return home that evening, her family's worry began to grow. Her family, well-to-do and influential in New York, immediately started to search for her. At first, they assumed she might be lost or temporarily disoriented. But as hours turned into days, their panic increased. Dorothy's mother and father, along with friends and private investigators, scoured the city for any sign of her. The police were quickly involved, but despite an exhaustive investigation, no solid leads turned up. Dorothy's personal items, including her coat and handbag, were not found. There were no signs of a struggle, and no one had witnessed anything unusual. However, there was one key piece of evidence. Dorothy had been seen entering a store in the area. After she left the shop, she was not seen again. It was as if she had disappeared into thin air, leaving behind only unanswered questions. Her family, devastated by the disappearance, worked tirelessly to find their daughter. They offered a substantial reward for any information. Dorothy's father, Francis Arnold, a prominent businessman, even enlisted the help of private investigators. But still, there were no clues. Some speculated that Dorothy might have fallen into the hands of a criminal. Others thought she had perhaps been involved in a romantic affair that her family didn't approve of. There were even rumors that Dorothy might have staged her own disappearance due to personal reasons or emotional distress. But nothing was ever confirmed. As the weeks passed, Dorothy's disappearance became a national story, capturing the attention of the public and the media. Still, no one knew where she had gone. Even as Dorothy's family endured a long and painful search, the answers remained just out of reach. Despite numerous theories and endless speculation, no new information about Dorothy Arnold's fate has emerged. Over the years, several potential sightings were reported, but each lead turned out to be a dead end. The case was eventually closed, but Dorothy's disappearance has never been forgotten. After more than a century, Dorothy Arnold's disappearance continues to haunt New York City and the nation. Was she a victim of foul play? Did she run away and start a new life? We may never know the truth. On April 20th, 2019, Sunney Sramek disappeared from Trenton, Nebraska. She was last seen with a man named Floyd Clifford Coates Jr., who went by Cliff. He would later change his story multiple times about what happened to her. Sunney, just 25 years old at the time, had been living with her mother and working toward completing her GED. She left Trenton with Cliff Coates, a man she had been acquainted with, and headed toward Omaha, Nebraska, a trip that would end in her unexplained disappearance. They were traveling in Coates's 2004 Ford Explorer, a white vehicle with distinctive Iowa plates and a black rim on the back passenger side. Their planned destination was Omaha, 300 miles away, where Coates said they were supposed to pick up his niece. At around 12:45 p.m., Sunney called her mother from a borrowed phone. She said she was in Holdridge, Nebraska, but nothing seemed out of the ordinary. She didn't indicate anything wrong, and after that, her family would never hear from her again. According to Coates, their journey took a strange turn that night. He later claimed that they stopped at the Prairie Flower Casino in Carter Lake, Iowa between 9 p.m. and midnight. Since Sunney was underage and couldn't gamble, Coates said he went inside the casino while she stayed in the car. When he returned, he said Sunney was gone. But Coates' story didn't stop there. He changed his account, now saying Sunney disappeared at a gas station in Omaha while he went inside to pay for gas. When he returned to the vehicle, He claimed she was gone again. This time, he said, he didn't contact the police or anyone else about her disappearance. He just left. Coates's multiple conflicting stories raised red flags, but it was his past that caught the attention of investigators. He had an extensive criminal history across Kansas, Iowa, and Nebraska. His convictions ranged from drug and weapons offenses to battery and false imprisonment. As the investigation continued, it became clear that Coates was not telling the whole truth. He was charged in May 2024 with a number of serious crimes, including evidence tampering and intimidating witnesses. These charges stemmed from evidence found during police searches of Coates's home and vehicles, items related to Sunney's disappearance. Police discovered ammunition in Coates's closet, and inside a safe in one of his vehicles, they found a handgun and loaded magazines. Due to his criminal background, Coates is prohibited from possessing weapons, which led to even more serious charges. Coates's charges, including conspiracy to distribute drugs and possession of firearms, are unrelated to Sunney's disappearance, but they only add to the mystery. Was Coates involved in something far more sinister, or is Sunney's case simply an unsettling disappearance with no clear explanation? At the time of her disappearance, Sunney was working on her GED and was separated from her husband, who is not believed to be involved. Her family has never stopped searching for her, and they continue to hope for answers. But to this day, Sunney remains missing, and Coates's multiple stories only deepen the mystery. Sunney Sramek's case remains unsolved. If you have any information about her disappearance, please contact the Nebraska State Patrol or the Trenton Police Department. On February 19, 2005, Danielle, Imbo, and Richard Petrone vanished without a trace after a night out in Philadelphia. Despite years of investigation, their whereabouts remain unknown, leaving their families and loved ones with more questions than answers. Danielle Imbo was 34 years old, a mother to a young son, and living in Philadelphia at the time. Richard Petrone, also known as Richie, was 35, a hardworking man with a passion for music. The couple had been dating for about a year, and on the night they disappeared, they went out to a local bar. On the evening of February 19, 2005, Danielle and Richard were at J.D. McGillicuddy's bar in southwest Philadelphia. After spending a few hours there, they decided to leave, getting into Richard's car, a 1997 Dodge Dakota truck. Their plan was simple. Danielle would return to her home, and Richard would head to his. But neither of them would make it to their destination. The couple was last seen around 2:30 a.m. as they were leaving the bar. According to surveillance footage from a nearby location, they were seen getting into Richard's truck and driving away. That was the last known sighting of Danielle and Richard together. A search was immediately launched, but it turned up no new leads. No one had seen or heard from either of them since that night, and their sudden disappearance raised more questions than answers. Over the years, there have been many theories and rumors. Some speculated that Danielle and Richard were victims of a crime, possibly connected to someone they knew. Others believed they may have gotten into some sort of altercation at the bar, but no concrete evidence has ever supported either theory because Richard's truck was also missing. One of the most puzzling aspects of the case is that neither Danielle nor Richard's cell phones were used after they left the bar. Their families were desperate for answers and have been searching for over a decade. Their loved ones continue to hold on to hope that one day, they will know what happened to them. Despite years of investigation, no answers have emerged, and Danielle and Richard's disappearance remains a mystery. If you have any information about their case, no matter how small, please contact the Philadelphia Police Department. You could be the one to finally bring justice and closure to their families. On January 20th, 2007, Raymen Handy, an experienced hiker from Fountain Valley, California, set off on a solo hiking trip to Fremont Peak. That day would mark the last time he was ever seen. Despite an extensive search, Raymen's disappearance remains a mystery. Raymen Handy was 29 years old at the time, a chemistry student at the University of California, with a deep passion for the outdoors. With over 20 years of hiking experience, Raymen was no stranger to the rugged terrains of California, and Fremont Peak, located in San Benito County, was a place he had visited before. On January 20th, Raymen drove his dark blue Honda Accord to Fremont Peak, a remote area known for its breathtaking views and hiking trails. However, when he didn't return, his family became concerned. Raymen's car was found parked on a dirt patch near the base of the mountain, and inside the car was a hand-drawn map showing where Raymen planned to hike. Temperatures were exceptionally cold that night, and with the harsh conditions, the area was treacherous, especially for someone hiking alone. Despite this, Raymen was an experienced hiker, well-equipped for the outdoors. If he had access to a water source, experts believe he could have survived for weeks in the wilderness. Search teams scoured the area extensively, combing through the rugged terrain, hoping to find any sign of Raymen. They found nothing. No footprints, no shelter, no sign of him anywhere. It was as though he had simply vanished into the mountains. Raymen had a deep interest in electronics and a love for chemistry, and he was known to be intelligent, resourceful, and independent. Authorities believe he may have had an accident while hiking, possibly falling or injuring himself, which would explain why he couldn't return to his car. However, after all these years, his body has never been found, and what exactly happened to Raymen remains unknown. The search for answers continues, and his family is still hoping for closure. On the night of January 20th, 2007, Olson vanished without a trace after a night out at Bar One, a nightclub in DeKalb, Illinois. Despite extensive investigations, he has never been found, and the mystery surrounding his disappearance continues to haunt his family. Olson was last seen around 2:25 a.m. at Bar One, located near the intersection of West Lincoln Highway and Glidden Road in DeKalb. At the time, he was intoxicated and on his cell phone, trying to arrange a ride home to Maple Park, about 20 miles away. His phone call was abruptly cut off when his phone died, and that was the last anyone heard from him. He had been at the nightclub with friends, but they left before the club closed. Temperatures that night plummeted to nearly 0 degrees Fahrenheit, making it a dangerous time for anyone to be out in the cold, especially someone intoxicated and alone. At the time of his disappearance, Olson was living with his parents, who were on vacation in Florida. When they returned to Illinois on January 24th, they found that Olson had left both his vehicles behind, and his bank accounts hadn't been touched since his disappearance. They immediately reported him missing. His parents were alarmed, especially since they had never been out of contact with him for more than a couple of days. Olson had a young daughter who lived with her mother, and his sudden disappearance left a gaping hole in the lives of those who loved him. Olson, a graduate of Caneland High School, had been working in the construction industry at the time of his disappearance. While he had a criminal history with various charges, including assaulting a police officer, property damage, and illegal possession of a firearm, it remains unclear if any of this had a connection to his disappearance. Authorities have questioned several individuals and polygraph tests have been administered, but to date, no suspects have been named. Despite the ongoing investigation, Olson's case remains unsolved. In 2010, Olson was declared legally dead. His daughter is now able to collect Social Security benefits, but the pain of his unresolved disappearance still lingers. His family continues to search for answers, hoping to uncover the truth about what happened that cold January night. Olson's disappearance remains one of the many unsolved mysteries in Illinois. If you have any information about his case, no matter how small, please contact the DeKalb Police Department. Shamika was last seen at approximately 1:30 a.m. on April 21, 2004, at a relative's home in the vicinity of York Avenue and Richmond Terrace in the New York City borough of Staten Island. She left to visit a friend and never returned. Authorities believe Shamika may have met with foul play, and they have searched a landfill for evidence in her case, but nothing was found. Her ex-boyfriend is considered a person of interest in her case, but he has not been charged in connection with it. She was pregnant at the time of her disappearance. There is very little information available about her case, and her mother has expressed frustration over the lack of media coverage surrounding her daughter's case. She has been missing for over 21 years and sadly, just like all of the other cases we've covered in this video, this case remains unsolved.